seconds.
I'm gonna record everything.
Okay.
Make Mike Davis on YouTube, Jose.
All right.
Mike Davis.
All right. So when I'm first walking up to my truck, checking my marker clearance lights at the top. They're properly mounted and secured, not cracked, damaged, or broken, and of the proper color. My windshield has no illegal stickers, appears to be clean, and properly mounted and secured. My mirrors, properly mounted and secured, overall good condition. My headlights, high beams, turn signals, clearance lights, and four-way flashers all appear to be in good condition, properly mounted and secured, and of the proper color. I have no leaks or puddles underneath my truck. It's not leaning. It's not leaning to one side or the other, which would indicate a leak or a load imbalance or a problem with my suspension tires. My windshield wipers appear to be mounted, properly mounted and secured. So we start with the right side of the motor. My windshield washer reservoir is properly mounted and secured. The cap is tight, seal is present, and it's not leaking. My air intake, clamps on both ends, all the proper hardware tight, and appears to be in good condition. My radiator hoses have the proper clamps on both ends, not cracked, chafed, or bulging, and they're not leaking. My radiator is properly mounted and secured, no visible leaks, appears to be in good condition. My fan blades, no blades cracked, broken, or missing, properly mounted and secured, and in good condition. My serpentine belt, not frayed, no missing ribs, and it has the proper deflection of 1/2 to 3/4 inch. My air conditioner compressor is properly mounted and secured with all the electrical connections and hoses tight and no leaks. My alternator is properly mounted and secured. The electrical connections have no corrosion and appear to be in good condition. My frame is not cracked, damaged, or broken. No illegal welds or non-factory drilled holes. My shock and shock mounts are properly mounted and secured, all hardware tight and present. My shock is not bent, and my shock is not leaking. My leaf springs, leaf spring shackles, and leaf spring mounts are all properly mounted and secured, all the hardware tight and present, and appear to be in good condition. My U-bolts that connect to the leaf springs are not cracked, damaged, or broken, no illegal welds, and are tight with all the proper hardware. My air hoses, air lines for my brakes are connected on both ends, tight, with no audible leaks, and my air hoses have no chafing or cracking. My ABS electrical line is properly mounted and secured on both ends, has no cracks or chafing, and is in overall good condition. My brake chamber is not dented or cracked, has the proper clamps and bolts, and has no audible leaks. My push rod is connected to my slack adjuster with the proper pin and cotter pin. My push rod is not bent. My slack adjuster can have no more than 1 inch play, which I would check with the wheels chocked and the brakes released. My inner tire wall has no bruises, bulges, or cuts. My brake drum has no more than a 1 inch crack and is free of debris. My brake shoes have at least a 1/4 inch pad remaining no more than a 1-inch crack, and are free of debris. My steer tire is wearing evenly, has at least 4 30-seconds of tread remaining, and is inflated between 100 and 110 psi, which I would check daily with a air pressure gauge at the valve stem, which is properly mounted and secured and not leaking. My outer tire wall is not cut, bruised, or bulging, and is in overall good condition. My wheel is not bent, cracked, or damaged, has no illegal welds or non-factory drilled holes. My lug nuts are tight and present, with no oblong holes or rust trails which would indicate a loose lug nut. My outer hub seal is not leaking and is filled to the adequate level. My inner hub seal is also not leaking, which would be indicated by an oil trail at the inside of my wheel. Did I miss anything on this side?
The quarter-inch or the quarter of the leaf spring.
Yes. Okay. My leaf spring, I cannot have more than 1/4 of one leaf cracked, damaged, or missing.
And then saying quarter-inch of the pad remaining.
I said that.
Okay. I think you got everything.
Okay. I did forget the leaf spring. Good call.
Just,
Huh?
alternator is about driven, and then what? The air compressor.
Okay.
Belt driven, right?
Yeah, they are. Yep. Okay, on the left side of the motor, my radiator reservoir, coolant reservoir, is properly mounted and secured. The cap is tight with the seal present and is not leaking, and is filled to the adequate level. My oil fill tube, the cap is tight, the seal is present, and is not leaking. My coolant lines, water hoses, are properly mounted and secured with clamps at both ends. Appear to be in good condition and not leaking. My water pump is belt driven, properly mounted and secured, and is not leaking. My serpentine belt has no cracks, missing ribs, frays, and is the proper tension of between 1/2 and 3/4 inch deflection. My fuel pump is gear driven, properly mounted, secured, and not leaking. My oil dipstick is properly mounted and secured, filled to the adequate level, and is not leaking. My air compressor is also gear driven, properly mounted and secured, and no audible leaks. My air lines are all properly mounted and secured, not cracked, chafed, or damaged, with no audible leaks. My steering shaft has no excessive play. My electrical connections are all properly mounted and secured and are free of corrosion. My power steering reservoir is properly mounted and secured, filled between the minimum and maximum level. Cap is tight and there are no leaks. My power steering hoses are properly mounted and secured, clamps on and tight on both ends, and there are no leaks. My power steering pump is gear driven and is properly mounted and secured. My steering block gearbox is properly mounted and secured and not leaking. My pitnum arm is connected to my drag link, which is connected to my steering knuckle, which is connected to my tie rod and tie rod end, with a castle nut and cotter pin. My frame is properly mounted and secured, no illegal welds or non-factory drilled holes, not cracked, damaged, or broken. My shock and shock mount is properly mounted and secured with all the proper hardware. My shock is not bent and is not leaking. My leaf springs, leaf spring shackles, and leaf spring mounts are all properly mounted and secured with the proper hardware. My leaf spring cannot have more than 1/4 of one leaf cracked, damaged, or missing. My U-bolts that connect my leaf spring are properly mounted and secured with the proper nuts and hardware. My brake line air hose is properly mounted on both ends, not cracked or chafed, with no audible leaks. My electrical ABS line is properly mounted and secured with no cracks or chafing. My brake chamber is not cracked or dented with no audible leaks. The clamps and nuts and hardware are all tight and present. My push rod is not bent and is connected to my slack adjuster with the proper pins and cotter pins. My slack adjuster cannot have more than a 1-inch play, which I would check with the wheels chocked and the brakes released. My brake drum is properly mounted and secured, no more than a 1-inch crack, and is free of debris. My brake shoes have at least 1/4 inch of pad remaining and cannot have more than a 1-inch crack and are free of debris. My inner wheel seal is not leaking, which will be indicated by an oil trail at the bottom of my wheel. My inner tire wall is not cut, bruised, or bulging. My tire is wearing evenly, has at least 4 30-second tread remaining. The inflation is between 110 and 100 and 110 psi, which I would check daily with a tire pressure gauge. At the valve stem, which is properly mounted and secured and not leaking. My outer tire wall is not cracked, bruised, or bulging, and is overall good condition. My wheel is not bent, cracked, or damaged, has no illegal welds or non-factory drilled holes. My lug nuts are all tight and present, with no oblong holes or rust trails, which could indicate a loose lug nut. My outer hub seal is filled to the adequate level and is not leaking. What did I miss?
Just steering shaft play.
Okay. Steering shaft has no excessive play. I thought I did it, but okay.
Maybe you did. I just
I could have missed it. I'll do this every day. But good. All right, that's all I got to miss.
Yeah.
Okay. My mid cab, turn signal, marker clearance light, and 4-way flasher is properly mounted and secured, not cracked, damaged, or broken, and it is of the proper color. My mirrors, properly mounted, secured, clean, no illegal stickers or other obstructions. My door hinges, door seal are all in good condition. The door latches and unlatches properly. My battery box is properly mounted, secured. Electrical connections are free of corrosion. My def tank is properly mounted, secured. The cap is tight with the proper seal and is not leaking. My steps are properly mounted, secured, and free of debris. My fuel tank is properly mounted, secured with at least 2 straps. The cap is tight with the proper seal and is not leaking. In my side box, I have a properly mounted and charged fire extinguisher, 3 emergency triangles, extra fuses, and extra breakers. At the rear of my tractor, the reflectors are in good condition and of the proper color. The utility lights are not cracked, damaged, or broken, and are of the proper color. My catwalk and steps are properly mounted and secured and free of debris. My exhaust is properly mounted and secured with no excessive soot buildup or shiny metal, which would indicate loose hardware. My air tank is properly mounted and secured. My air tank drain works properly and is not leaking, and I would drain it daily looking for excessive oil or water. My frame and cross member are properly mounted and secured. No illegal welds or non-factory drilled holes. My drive shaft is not cracked, damaged, or broken, and is secured to the U-joints with all the proper hardware, and they are tight, and the U-joint is properly greased. My torque arm is properly mounted and secured, not cracked, damaged, or broken. My air lines for the brakes are properly mounted on both ends, secured, not cracked or chafing, no audible leaks. My electrical ABS line is properly mounted and secured with no cracking or chafing. My airbags and my airbag mounts are properly mounted and secured with all the proper hardware. My airbags are not cracked, bruised, or cut, and have no audible leaks. My shocks and shock mounts are properly mounted and secured with all the proper hardware. My shock is not bent and it is not leaking. My brake chamber is not cracked, dented, or damaged, has the proper clamps and hardware, and is properly mounted and secured with no audible leaks. My push rod is connected to my slack adjuster with the proper pin and cotter pin, and my push rod is not bent. My slack adjuster can have no more than 1 inch play, which I would check with the wheels chocked and the brakes released. My leaf springs, leaf spring mounts, and leaf spring shackles are all properly mounted and secured with the proper hardware, and the U-bolts have the proper nuts and are tight. My leaf spring can have no more than 1/4 one leaf cracked, missing, or broken. My brake drum is in good condition, no more than a 1 inch crack, and is free of debris. My brake shoes have at least a 1/4 inch pad remaining and no more than a 1 inch crack. My inner wheel seal is not leaking, which would be indicated by an oil trail on the inside of my wheel and tire. My inner tire wall is not cracked, bruised, or cut. My tires are wearing evenly. All the side walls are in good condition. We have at least 2 32" tread remaining. My wheels are touching, my tires are not, and they are free of debris. My outer tire wall is not cut, bruised, or damaged. My tire pressure is between 100 and 110 psi, which I would check daily. At the valve stem, there, with the tire pressure gauge, the valve stems are properly mounted and secured and are not leaking. My wheel is not cracked, damaged, or bent. No illegal welds or non-factory drilled holes. My lug nuts are all tight and present. No rust trails or oblong holes, which would indicate a loose lug nut. My outer hub seal is not leaking. It's filled to the adequate level. Everything I would do to this axle, I would do to that axle. At the rear of my tractor, my mud flap splash guards are properly mounted and secured with the appropriate amount of DOT tape and are of the proper height. My reverse light, my reflectors, my turn signal, my 4-way flashers, my brake lights, and my tail lights, and my marker clearance lights are all properly mounted and secured, not cracked, damaged, or broken, and are of the proper color. Does that cover back of cab? Now I got coupling.
It's the DOT tape, right?
Yeah, you did. Yeah. Okay, did I miss anything?
That's it.
Oh, I'm on a roll now.
Fucking killing me.
All right, so coupling. So this is one of the parts you will get. My air lines are connected to my tractor and to my trailer. not cracked, damaged, or broken, properly suspended. My electrical lines with my electrical pigtails are connected to my truck and my trailer and are in the locked position. The electrical line is not cracked, frayed, or corroded, and it is in overall good condition. My tractor glad hand and my trailer glad hands are properly mounted and secured with the rubber grommets in good condition with proper seals and are not leaking. My apron is properly mounted and secured, not cracked, damaged, or broken, and there's no gap between my apron and my fifth wheel skid plate. My fifth wheel skid plate is properly mounted and secured, it is properly greased, and it has the proper pins and hardware connecting it to the fifth wheel platform. All properly mounted, secured, tight, and present. My fifth wheel release arm is in the locked position, is not bent or damaged, and is properly mounted and secured. My fifth wheel sliding platform and sliding platform mounts are properly mounted and secured with all the proper nuts and bolts and hardware. My fifth wheel sliding locking pins are in the lock position and give me the adequate distance so that my trailer landing gear does not hit my tires when I turn. My fifth wheel locking jaws are secure around the kingpin, and my kingpin is not bent, damaged, or broken, and is in overall good condition. Did I miss anything?
Yeah, you got her.
Okay, now it's trailer. The front of my trailer, the header board, is in overall good condition, no cracks, rips, or tears, and is sufficient to hold back my cargo. My top marker clearance lights are properly mounted, secured, not cracked, damaged, or broken, and are of the proper color. Looking down the side of my trailer, I have no rips, gouges, or tears, and the side is in overall good condition. I have at least 50% of DOT tape running the length of my trailer, which will show the length of my trailer. My trailer frame and cross members are not cracked, damaged, or broken, and are overall good condition. My trailer landing gear is properly mounted and secured. My sand feet are free of debris, and my legs are all the way retracted. My landing gear handle works as it should and is in the stowed position. My mid-trailer turn signal, marker clearance light, and four-way flasher is properly mounted, secured, not cracked, damaged, or broken, and it is of the proper color. My airlines are properly mounted, secured on both ends, are properly suspended and spaced. My torsion bars are properly mounted and secured, not cracked, damaged, or broken, and all the proper hardware is tight and present. My brake chambers are not cracked, dented, or damaged, with the proper clamps and the proper hardware, and there are no audible leaks. My push rods are connected to my slack adjusters with the proper pin and cotter pin. My push rod is not bent. My slack adjuster can have no more than a 1-inch play when pulling on it with the brakes released and the wheels chocked. My trailer ABS lines are in good condition, properly mounted and suspended, and connected on both ends, not corroded. My shocks and shock mounts are all properly mounted and secured. My shock is not bent and it is not leaking. My airbags and my airbag mounts are all properly mounted and secured. My airbags are not cracked, bruised, or bulging, and they have no audible leaks. My inner wheel seal is not leaking, which will be indicated by oil trail at the bottom of my wheel. My brake drum is in overall good condition with no more than a 1-inch crack and is free of debris. My brake shoes have at least a 1/4 inch pad remaining, no more than a 1-inch crack, and are free of debris. My inner tire wall is not cracked, bruised, or bulging. My tires are wearing evenly. My wheels are touching, my tires are not, and it is free of debris. My tires have at least 2 32 inch tread remaining. My tandem release arm is in the locked position with all hardware tight and present. My tandem sliding platform and platform mounts are all properly mounted, secured with the proper hardware tight and present. My tandem locking pins are in the locked position. My tires are inflated between 100 and 110 psi, which I would check daily at the valve stems, which are properly mounted and secured and not leaking. My outer tire wall is not cracked, bruised, or bulging or cut. My wheels are not bent, damaged, or broken. No illegal welds or non-factory drilled holes. My lug nuts are tight and present with no rust trails or oblong holes, which would indicate a loose lug nut. My outer hub seal is filled to the adequate level and is not leaking. Anything I did on this axle, I would do to that axle. Did I miss anything?
Just 1/4 inch wear on the pads.
I did, I said it.
Did you?
I did it.
Okay, I
Go
missed
back
it.
to the video.
There you go. There
I
you go.
almost missed the sliding.
You got the video.
So that's why when you're in there and you're looking at stuff, just give it an overall and you're like, oh yeah, I didn't say that. Because not all trailers have it either.
Yeah, that's good.
Okay.
Different.
My rear splash guard mud flap splash guard is properly mounted and secured and of the proper height. Now you can say DOT tape's not required, it doesn't matter.
Okay.
That's just things people say, you know.
How do you stop?
The reason it's not required is because you have it back here. The reason it's required there is if you're driving it without the trailer. Or when you turn, it's sticking out. I guess that's 2 reasons. Okay. So my mud flat splash guards are properly mounted and secured and of the proper height. My license plate tag light is properly mounted and secured, not cracked, damaged, or broken, and of the proper color. My trailer ABS light is properly mounted and secured, not cracked, damaged, or broken, and is the only amber light allowed at the rear of my trailer. The rear marker clearance light is properly mounted, secured, not cracked, damaged, or broken, and it is of the proper color. My lift gate is not leaking and is in the stowed position. My bumpers are of the proper height and have the proper DOT tape running across them. My brake light, turn signal, 4-way flasher, tail light, and marker clearance lights are all properly mounted, secured, not cracked, damaged, or broken, and they are of the proper color. My door cables are not frayed or damaged and are in overall good condition. My door latches, hinges, door seals, handles all work properly and latch and unlatch as they should. Everything I would do to that side of the trailer, I would do to this side of the trailer. And the only difference I would say here is like that one is just gonna have different hardware. You're gonna have door ties, they're both door ties. They'll hold the doors open. You got different latches, you got different, so you just have to adapt it to what you have, whether it's overhead door or the 2 doors. And like, you know, that trailer, that's a side skirt. You gotta inspect the side skirt. It's got a fuel tank with a reefer. You gotta inspect that. So each setup is gonna be a little different when you get down to the particulars. So once you identify what all the parts are, you just do the inspection for what's there. Any questions?
No, just looks taken.
It is, but you get it.